You've been waiting all day for this, haven't you?
Alright, no time for an intro, no time for any of that shit. It's time to get hype, it's time to get hype, boys. They fucking dropped the trailer!
The Venture Brothers. New season begins January 31st at midnight.
Do not touch the hair.
Yo, it's your boy Hero, and today we're gonna take a look at this new trailer that just dropped for the Venture Bros movie, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart. Which, first off, the title is ridiculously fanciful, and I for one love that, even if it's not very clear what exactly it means. And massive spoilers for everything ahead. Check out the trailer as well first before you watch this video, link below, and let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, let's check the Wikipedia plot description, as all good detectives do first thing. A nationwide manhunt for Hank Venture leads to untold dangers and unexpected revelations. While the Monarch is literally out for Dr. Venture's blood, an imposing evil from the past re-emerges to wreak havoc on the Ventures, the Guild, and even the Monarch marriage. It will take friends and foes alike to restore the Ventures world to order, or end it once and for all. Alright, well, looking at my past theories for this movie based on what we had access to before these recent days, this is the bulk of what I think. This new movie, I think it revolves around this new character, who I believe is Mantilla. And that's based on the voice acting credits. I don't think this character is Bobby St. Simone because I don't think the voices match. I'll play a sample for you right now.
Gentlemen, what can Arch do for you?
Bubbles of carbonation. It really, really worked. And then going to Glee, again, another ensemble comedy. So,
Gentlemen, what can Arch do for you?
I'm a special case though, but yeah, I think it's very cool that it's global on both ends. I love watching international shows.
Gentlemen, what can Arch do for you?
Based on the voices, I think this is Mantilla. And so I don't think that the trailer revealed Bobby St. Simone. Also, the name Mantilla, according to Google Translate at least, refers to kind of like a womanly piece of clothing, like a scarf or a head-worn silk kind of thing. And this new character does seem to be wearing a silk mantle. So I definitely want to say that this is Mantilla. From the plot summary, we know this Finding Hank storyline will be a big focus, and it's alongside the evil woman from the past stuff like a A-B plot. It seems to me that whatever is coming is going to relate mostly to the Ventures, the Guild, and the Monarch marriage. And I feel like it's key to focus on those three things if you want to put this mystery together before the movie comes out. So keep an open mind, and here's one theory. Now, the plot summary on Wikipedia and the synopsis for the movie that have come out in the past really have a huge focus on this ancient evil, this mysterious woman from the past of Doc, Hank, Dean, and the Monarch. And what is it that all those guys have in common? Well, they're all Ventures, we know that, and that means that this mysterious woman is either most likely a long-lost blood family relative in some kind of way, or that she's related to the super science or villainy aspect of the Ventures. You ask me, it's probably something to do with Jonas, or the Guild, the OSI, or some other super science thing in general, or perhaps even Jonas's grandfather who created the Guild. Which, side note, apparently this scene of Bowie Sovereign stating Colonel Lloyd Venture is Jonas's father is incorrect, according to the wiki page, and that Lloyd is actually Jonas's grandfather. Anyways, as for why I think Mantilla is connected to all or one of these things in specific, well, in the trailer we see a lot of scenes implicating her in a total sense as the big bad of this movie, like the big antagonist. Her and her group Arch that appear alongside her looking menacing are definitely going to be the main antagonist, at least at first glance. I mean, she's up at the top of the poster, the trailer makes it pretty obvious, they show her and her group with Red Death talking about how menacing they are, and it kind of shows in that scene where she comes up to Malcolm in 21 like she's kind of collecting or absorbing villains into the group Arch. So that could kind of be the most shallow aspect of her angle, taking everyone to combat the modern day Guild, all the villains who aren't being represented. However, in my last theory, I claim that Force Majeure, the leader of the Guild before the Bowie Sovereign, could have been something along the lines of like Jonas Venture's twin sister, to kind of fit in with the running theme of twins arching twins. However, with this new character, I'm not sure she's exactly that force majeure that I predicted in my last theory. I can at least tell you that Blue Morpho's mom isn't force majeure. I was totally wrong about that. But I do think if you trust the plot summary and the synopsis that have come out in the past, that she's got to have some sort of past relation to the Venture family, most likely something Jonas related. With that past relation and her status as kind of the big bad of the whole movie, enemy of the OSI and the Guild and everybody, it's safe to say that It's something along the lines of her being connected to either like Jonas or the Guild, something with like the Venture family, something with like Lloyd Venture, and it's most likely either got to do with the Guild or Jonas in my opinion. Now, with what we know about all these plot summaries and everything and what we see about her in the trailer, I think that this much is clear. This woman feels betrayed about something from the past. Most likely something related to Jonas, if you ask me, because he's kind of like, you know, the asshole of the entire series, secretly the bad guy working behind the shadows in every scene. But it could be the OSI or the Guild or some part of the Ventures in general, not just Jonas. But I feel like she's coming back to get that revenge for that betrayal. Hell, when she's introduced in the trailer, the narrator even says the words, betrayal. He says it like she's a new character who's going to betray the Venture family or the Monarch or somebody, but I think it's a clue that her backstory is actually motivated by a betrayal that she suffered in the past. This betrayal in the past connects her to our main cast and makes the plot summary and the synapses make a lot more sense, especially when you consider that they've set up Jonas for all this time. They've got to have a big Jonas reveal. He's not even in the trailer at all, but you know he's related to this shit. So she's probably going to have some sort of relation to Jonas. Maybe her reason for coming back, maybe it's the reason why Jonas didn't inherit the title of Sovereign in the first place. Why didn't he get it down the line from Colonel Lloyd Venture? In the past, I've said maybe he had a twin sister that got the title of Sovereign or something, but we're not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about this trailer. But I will say this. Pure speculation, but perhaps she lost her right to run the Guild, and now she's coming back to destroy it, or take control of it, maybe even take control of the OSI along the way. I mean, the OSI in this scene at least look to be either out of Brock and Shoreleave's control, or it's just being made out to seem that way for another twist, but why would Shoreleave tell Sheila to run from the guys he's supposed to be in command of? That doesn't make any sense. There's another scene that kind of sets this angle up too, and that is during the Orpheus Learns the Truth style flashing scene, we do see a Venture logo with some Latin or something written on it. Some people are saying that it means choose or to be chosen or something like that. I don't know, I'm not Billy Quizboy, I don't speak Latin. But we do in that same Orpheus scene also see a big ass statue of Jonas as a big focus as well, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, you know what I'm saying? Ooh. I think a lot of this trailer is hyping up for a lot of crazy Venture shit, and I actually think Hank has got a big role to play in all this, but I'll touch back on that in a few. Anyways, Mantilla, who I believe this character to be, I believe her motivation is she's trying to destroy the Guild. She's trying to probably get at the Ventures too. Red Death mentions that she's a threat to the very foundation of the system they've become accustomed to. So she's got some deep ties probably to this whole villain system and community. Maybe she straight up just is Jonas's sister, or like mom, or even like the Bowie Sovereign still alive, or Force Majeure, or whoever. I can't say anything on that for sure, obviously. I'm not psychic. But with the Venture Bros, you can expect it to be something wild and fucking crazy like that. But I'll come back to these points in just a minute, because there's a whole nother perspective, a whole other way of looking at this that I want to go over. So Mantilla, well, she looks kind of a little bit like Sheila, don't you think? Maybe you see it, maybe you don't. But let's analyze this scene from the trailer a little bit deeper. The fact that when the OSI are busting in, Sheila looks half dressed and surprised by whatever is going on here, combined with her scene escaping on Red Death's horse, these are all, in my opinion, little clues that she's got a big role to play in this shit. That along with the plot summary that said the Monarch's marriage is going to be involved. Well, whatever is going on in this scene, I'm pretty sure that it's not purely just Guild related. It's all about Sheila, it's all about Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch. Shoreleave yells at her, telling her she specifically needs to run. But Red Death can just chill right there while the OSI breaks in. Like, clearly she's running from the OSI. Why isn't Red Death running? Because it's not purely Guild related. It's got to do with Sheila specifically. It's not just Guild related. So what's going on? Well, we hear her voice, or at least a voiceover later on in the trailer.
This is a setup. You can't possibly think I did this.
This is a setup. You can't possibly think I did this. She's being set up by Mantilla as part of Mantilla's first steps into attacking the Guild with her arch group, as well as eventually maybe attacking the OSI as well, as I've talked about. It appears for whatever reason, the OSI are attacking Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, and Shoreleave and Brock and Red Death are helpless to assist her. They just have to tell her to run. And thus Shoreleave telling her to run is kind of the key to figuring out the mystery of that scene. Perhaps Mantilla gains control of the OSI, or perhaps she simply set up Sheila to take the fall for something and get the OSI on her case. But I'm sitting here thinking, Brock and Shirley are right there. If the OSI is busting in, why don't Brock and Shirley just tell them to stand down? They're like the two fucking biggest names in the OSI. Nah. It seems more likely that if the OSI are chasing after Miss Monarch and Shore Leave is yelling run, it must mean that Mantilla is either in control of the OSI or she has them in her pocket to some capacity. And why do all of this just for Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch specifically? That's the question. I think it's because Mantilla wants the guild. And Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, she's kind of the acting sovereign of the guild right now in a kind of way. I think Mantilla, with her past connections to the Ventures in the guild and her betrayal and revenge story, I think that she's looking to take down the guild's foremost spokeswoman, which is Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch. But also, they kind of look a little bit similar, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's her mom or her sister, or like a clone or a different timeline version, or I don't know, I'm getting a little bit out of hand. She looks just as much like Hank as she does anyone else, so there's that as well. But like I said before, I don't think this is Bobby. I think this is Mantilla for sure. The voice alone all but confirms it. But there's one last thing. If the word Mantilla, which by itself doesn't seem to get us any extra information, could at least be taken to have some sort of reference to the character, well, perhaps if we took the meaning to mean something being worn on someone's head, just that part of the definition, well, Sheila, or Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, has been shown in all of her major costumes to always have some sort of headwear, completely changing and matching whatever that headwear is to fit her current costume. She's also got the word man in her name, and Sheila's got kind of a manly voice, so yeah, no. But there's also the idea that Mantilla sounds a lot like mantle, which could be a reference to the passing of the mantle, the title of sovereign down. Maybe she really is force majeure. I don't know. Maybe my old theory is garbage. Maybe this whole fucking thing I'm putting together right now is the key. Is this all coincidences? Probably. It could be that Red Death isn't running because Mantilla didn't set up Red Death to be hunted by the OSI. And it might be that I'm just looking too deeply into this. But there is the time machine aspect as well. Why have a whole time machine set up in the last fucking episode to come out if you're not going to do anything with it? But even without it, another suspicious thing is we've never seen any sort of really like old backstory, any familial backstory with Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch. We don't know who her parents are. We don't know if she has any siblings. We haven't seen fucking like anything about her aside from that one scene where she meets Phantom Limb in college. Shit, we even see Billy mention Rusty's mom.
Late.
You're fashionably somewhere better.
Oh my god, did you invite anybody else? Like your mom? Or maybe that fox from the Carfax commercial? The Carfax fox?
So we can be sure that she's not even related to Rusty's mom. It just seems like a lot of characters have parents, have familial bonds, but not Sheila. That's kind of suspicious. And on the note of Billy mentioning Rusty's mom, I wonder how Billy and Doc will actually get wrapped up in that time machine shit if it does get resolved in the movie. If Arch takes over the Peril Partnership, maybe they could get all of the creep stuff, including the time machine, but what are Doc and Billy doing in the fucking time machine so far in the past? I wonder that most of all, honestly, when I think on my old theories. I guess the past mystery is the whole point of the plot summary and the synopsis and the movies kind of building up this huge thing revealing all of the past, but it's too fucking much. And speaking of too much, how will Jonas's head actually play into all of this? I myself speculate that in a way he is the real villain of the series. And I think that if he's fucking not the real villain, I would eat an entire basket of shoes. But on the topic of the main story that Jonas might be the villain of, I just want to say that that's my current thoughts for this trailer. Mantilla with some connection to the Ventures will be the enemy of the guild and the OSI, and Doc and the Monarch will get wrapped up trying to solve all these missing pieces while fighting against her. But that's pretty much obvious, so I don't just want to stop my speculation there. I want to go back and I want to say that if not the connection to Jonas, the old guild, Lloyd, or even her being force majeure, I at least think that alongside this past revelation that's going to come through, that S.H.I.E.L.D. probably, at the very least, be the shit that's behind this Peril Partnership bullshit that's been going on in the last season. A new age of non-guild villains being absorbed and led by her in Arch. Because Arch isn't even on the old graph that they showed, so it's got to be some underground shit. It's not like they're another competing faction. If Arch has been collecting guys for a long time, and this Peril Partnership is just a little bit of that, they've got to be on some huge villainous behind-the-scenes underground shit. But let's put that aside. Now let's talk about Bobby Saint-Simon. On a real note, I don't really have much to say more on this. If you want to know my thoughts on what's going to go down with Bobby and Hank and Dean and all them, check my previous video. Just gonna plug that in real quick. I still think that the original boys will be with Bobby. The actual Hank and Dean that really are the real Hank and Deans that came out of her pussy, I think they'll be with Bobby. I think that all the Hank and Deans that Doc ever had after they split were just all clones of clones of clones of clones of clones. And Bobby, who may or may not be pictured here, I think when she shows up in the movie, she will guide Hank. She will guide him along his role to play in all of this. And eventually, when Dean finds Hank, she will guide him as well. She might even know more about Arch and Mantilla and all this shit and inform the boys, and us, the viewers by extension, of exactly what this mysterious past is all about. But there's another person I think who could guide us to that mysterious past. I'll talk about him later. But in regards to Bobby, I feel like Hank and Dean will obviously reconnect with each other and find their mother and themselves, and all this main conflict they'll get wrapped up in eventually, and that much to me is sure. The culmination of all the growth of the boys is something I am heavily looking forward to. And I'm also excited to see Jane Lynch as the VA for their mother. I think that's going to be fucking amazing. Moving on, let's take a look at some of these scenes from the trailer again real quick. This thing right here is apparently a pants golem. At first glance, I thought it was maybe Ned, but Ned's got 4 fingers, doesn't really sound like Ned. And I saw some posts that people are claiming it's the pants golem, making his long-awaited debut. Another thing to note is that when Jefferson fights these Blackula outside the handy-dandy grooming factory or whatever, that's the same shit that the Monarch uses to keep his eyebrows in check, so wonder if that'll play into anything. In the first look that came out before the trailer, where Brock is looking for Hank, this seems to be a whole setup by Mantilla. There's various clues on this one, and you can expect that this is probably how her attack on the OSI will begin, with her eventually controlling it to go after Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, as I stated earlier. Perhaps this is even the setup that Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch is being set up for. In this scene, you can see that Hank is clearly going to go back to the old Venture compound. I'm pretty excited to go back to like our first location from the series. And if he does find any clues here of the shit he's looking for, it's probably Jonas related, so hype! From the trailer, it looks like we're going to see 21 versus Sergeant Hatred again, or Sergeant Vatred, I guess. Not really a super hype fight. I think 21 will take this pretty easily, and it's not even going to be like a very long scene. But that does have me thinking that maybe this movie will have me making addendums to my strongest character videos I've made. And on that same note, we do see a new suit for 21, which looks very cool. We get a glimpse of the Monarch outside the Venture building with no arching suit, just in like all black. Maybe he's trying to break in this scene stealthily, or maybe he's just here to talk things out with Doc. Either way, he's going to get some answers, and it's interesting to see him without his arching suit. As most people can tell, I mean, the Monarch is definitely going to team up with Doc in some kind of way. I think we all really predicted this in the past. It was pretty obvious, if you ask me. I'm sure all the big reveals and the plot change-ups that come in the movie are going to be pretty much a direct relation to their plotline. All the shenanigans they get up to. I mean, the plot summary seems to suggest that the Monarch is literally out for Doc's blood, probably to test more familial bonds or something, so that should be quite funny. See him pulling his classic shit while Doc pushes this new failing invention or whatever his plot's gonna be. I do want to say though, this invention, this robot head, or almost like a Helper Model 3 maybe, it's kind of weird that Jonas Venture is just a head now, and right after that, the first thing we see is that Doc starts making a head robot. There could be something going on there. And as I was saying earlier about Hank playing a big role, this trailer seems to be setting him up not as just a separate plot to disappear and find his mom, but almost like the key part to this whole Mantilla thing as well. Everyone's trying to find Hank, they can't find him, and it could be something more than them just being worried. It could be like, this is a shot in the dark, but it kind of feels like he really is the key in all this. Like he might play a huge part that's way bigger than we really think right now. Maybe he's the last in the line of the Venture protectors or some shit, like how we see in Latin in that other scene that like choose or chosen or whatever. Or maybe it's just something similar to Dean being the rightful heir to the guild. It'll come back and be like super Hank related this time. The plot summary mentioning a nationwide manhunt for Hank, it just seems like it's trying to emphasize that a lot more than, oh yeah, just Dean is looking for Hank. It's like, it seems like everyone's looking for Hank, like he's the key. Hell, even maybe the orb will make an appearance again in the story and be incredibly important, tie into all this shit. And whatever happens with Hank, I'm pretty sure Dermot will most likely join up with the Venture Brothers at some point during this conflict as well. If Mantilla does kind of get her hands in the OSI, that could link into being related to Dermot because he is like a grunt soldier for the OSI the last time we saw him. And touching back from before, I'm not really super sure on how Mantilla will or won't relate to Sheila, if at all, or even like the Ventures in general, but there is someone in the story who I think does, and I think that that character is Ben. Ben, who worked really closely in the past with Jonas, helped him develop the cloning technology and seems to know a lot more than he told us the last time we saw him.
So I have no mommy? No nothing?
Dean, you have it all wrong. You have a mommy, and your dad is your dad. They made you by getting drunk and forgetting to wear a condom like everybody else.
I'm happy to see him return, most likely running into Hank when Hank returns to the compound to look for clues, and Ben is still a character that has a lot left to illuminate in this story, and we know for a fact that he's going to be in this movie based on the voice acting credits. It's most likely that Hank will end up talking to Helper 2.0 and maybe interact with Rico as well, and if anyone can really shed light on Jonas and the Venture's shady past, I think it's Ben, and I think that he's been set up for this exact reason. All in all, after all this speculation, I'm starting to think that maybe the title, maybe it isn't so ridiculous after all, and at least one part of it, the blood part, refers to the blood connections for all the family members of the Venture clan. Radiant is the blood of the Baboon's heart. This could just be saying something along the lines of very important to this movie's plot is the blood connections of the Venture family. But who knows? Maybe this subtitle is something different completely. I've seen someone speculate it's the last words of hunter-gatherers who might die in this movie, as people are predicting, and it's like a final note that he says to Brock, because you know he's always saying all that weird shit all the time. And with that, that's about everything I think at first glance. I gotta admit, I have no idea if all this is just insane gibberish or if I'm truly Billy Quizboy on the case, and we're gonna find out come July's end. So till then, a massive shout out to all the people in the Discord, and all the people in the comments dropping their theories and dropping all their hype. And leave your theory or response to my theory as a comment below, because I want to see if y'all think I'm crazy or if you guys got some crazy theories of your own. We know they're going to reveal Bud Manstrong as the one behind the Movie Night Massacre, that's for sure. But I'm really wondering if they'll fucking tell us who Scare Bear is after all this time. I know a lot of people don't give a fuck about who Scare Bear is, and they think he's like a completely new character, who might be this guy right here mentioned in the voice acting credits. But I hope that he's like, you know, someone of importance to give validation to all my previous theories. And with that, I'll drop a link to the new Fox Clan Discord below. And don't worry about liking or hitting the bell or anything like that. Just sub if you like my content. And if anything, buy a bunch of copies of the movie and digital releases so they force this show out of cancellation. I'm serious, buy like 100 copies each. Buy 10 grillion copies each. If you can, buy Hulu or HBO or whatever the fuck. And just cancel all that other bullshit. Who cares? Make some more fucking Venture Bros. And with that, I'm Hero of the new Fox Clan, and go Team Venture! Thanks for watching.